Good afternoon and welcome to the Joy Show. I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell, your host, and this show is all about living authentically, finding your voice, being who you are, recognizing there's just one you, and you are unrepeatable. So, welcome, welcome. Let us begin with a land acknowledgement. I am honored to work, live, and play within the city of Toronto on the historical and traditional territory of many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe and Wendat peoples, and more recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Haudenosaunee nations. And as we gather together from places on Turtle Island, we as settlers are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. We acknowledge the Indigenous stewards of this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous people that have been shaping and strengthening our communities for a very, very long time. So we recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. We are one. Miigwech. Well, my guest today, oh, exciting woman, Colleen Santini, the real deal slayer of obstacles, queen of intention, upholder of sacred space for hundreds of retreats all over North America. Ooh, this sounds exciting. Making a meaningful connection. Washed it, can't do a thing with it. Making a meaningful connection saved her life. So it's a theme that runs through her life that she's been learning over and over again. It's what she teaches in yoga and meditation and how she serves the people that she works with. So I just want you to get ready, strap yourself in, because we're ready for a great conversation. Hello, Colleen. There you are.
I'm here. Hello, Barbara. Thank you so much for having me. I
Oh,
love the theme of your show, Just One You, and how it spells joy. I think that is awesome, and I'm in alignment with wanting to help everyone, including myself, be more authentic.
absolutely. Well, we started talking off a little bit earlier before we came on air. And so I want to pose a question to you and just see where that goes. And that is, what is the change you want to see in the world? What is the most important thing, do you think, right now?
Well, I love that question. Thank you for asking that question. Someone asked me this question a week ago, and I had an immediate answer, and it hasn't changed. And that is that I have a friend who talked about going to India, and until she spoke with me, I had no interest in going to India. I'm not very tall, and I hear that it's crowded there and smelly. And because I'm not very tall, although maybe in India the people are not very tall also, um, I feel a little claustrophobic. But this friend shared about an incident where she was experiencing frustration, a lot of frustration. She was trying to get something done, and there was a lot of red tape, and people were kind of brushing her off. So she was just getting frustrated and frustrated. And then eventually she just let go and she moved into an enlightenment experience in India. And the Indians dropped what they were doing. They recognized that she was in enlightenment. She was having an enlightenment experience. And I went, oh my goodness, that would never, ever happen here in North America. And so the change that I would like to see, it's like enlightenment is something that I experienced in 1983, and it changed my life. But in North America, it's not something that's really, you can't really talk about it in daily life. And I would like it to become more normal here in North America to be able to talk about enlightenment and have it recognized as something of value to our lives. And I think one of the main things that I see that comes out of enlightenment, it's like sometimes people don't know, well, what does enlightenment do? What's it for? But one of the main benefits that I see is that when people have an enlightenment experience, they experience feeling connected. They
Yes.
they feel a great connection with themselves, with the universe, and this is sometimes very healing, spontaneous healing. sometimes happens with these experiences. So I think it is of great value, and I would love to see it become more normal in North America. That's the
Yeah.
change I'd like to see in the world.
I love that. I had an enlightenment experience. The biggest one that I've had was when I was 27. So we're talking almost 40 years ago now. And it was profound because I knew in that moment that I was one with God, the universe, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. And I knew that energy as love. And it was profound. It changed my life, completely changed the trajectory of my life, and healed a lot of the things that weren't working. Even I quit smoking. And that was and, it was funny because I smoked 4 packs a day,
Oh my
and
goodness.
I know, 100 cigarettes. Yeah, it was crazy. But I butted that last cigarette out and I went, "Well, that's it, till the next one." And from that moment, never had a craving. And I've been
Wow.
smoking for 16 years, so it's not like I had just started, and I smoked 4 packs a day, so I was heavy, heavy into it. And I tried many times and couldn't, but after that experience, it was like, done. So, there's
That's
things that
amazing.
yeah, yeah, healings happen when we have that awareness of our oneness with this universe, that there is no separation, there is only connection. So tell me a little bit about connection, because I think that's a large part of what you do is connecting.
Yeah, and I love how it's like, because I've spoken with you outside of this, I understand that um your life did change as a result of that. And not only did it change, but this has become the main thrust of your life. It has become
Absolutely.
that for you. And so that's it's really inspiring that you've taken that experience and really put it into your life. So connection for me is uh, it's very healing, and like you experienced this healing uh, that you weren't expecting, you weren't planning it. One of the things that happens with enlightenment is that people do experience spontaneous healings. For me, I've had different kinds of healings. Before I was involved heavily with enlightenment, I had a lot of self-critical thoughts,
Yeah.
and my mind was really strong, which is not a bad thing. A hard-headed woman here, um, and but I was also paranoid. And not only was I paranoid, but my mother was afraid of being insane. And so I inherited that from her. And I don't know whether that's, because I was around her or because I have her physical DNA. I'm really unclear about that. But
Yeah.
that got healed for me, and the reason it got healed for me was I saw what I was doing that was keeping that in place. I became aware of, oh, it doesn't have to be this way. I'm doing something that's like locking it in place. And I could just let go of doing that thing, and I don't suffer. I don't suffer from that anymore. So that's a huge thing, and it was not an expected thing. I was
Well, yeah, and it's the same thing with my smoking, because the awareness I had was I don't have the right to kill the temple of God. And I knew without a doubt that if I continued smoking, I'd be dragging an oxygen tank by 40. Like, it was just this awareness. So yeah, you're right. The minute you have that enlightenment, there is an awareness that slips in that changes the game.
Yes, and I also felt like I have agency for my life in a way that I hadn't. I felt like a victim of these thoughts. I didn't know that I was creating it.
Choice? What? I have choice about this? Come on.
So yeah, so that was really powerful, and understanding who I am and being connected with myself
Yeah.
rather than it's like I think before this, I had this ongoing relationship with my mind, which was my mind is not kind. My mind is not kind. It's not. That's not its job. It's not the mind's job to be kind. The mind's job is to weigh the facts, and or the things that it sees as facts.
Yeah, the
And
ego mind.
you know, but who we are as human beings, we can make a choice that's more compassionate to ourselves and to others, and um, recognizing that I don't have to let my mind be in control of me. That actually my mind is the it's the tool, and I'm the driver. That is a very powerful recognition.
It is. And awareness is power. Like the minute we become aware of something new and really sort of embody it, it absolutely changes the game for us almost immediately,
Yes.
which which is very, very cool. So tell me about the enlightenment process. I know you run enlightenment retreats. What does that look like? Like for somebody who doesn't know anything about enlightenment, what would one of these events be like?
Well, we usually do it in a 5-day format. You can do a longer one. The
Yeah.
thing is, what works best about it is that you leave the trappings of your life behind. So it's best if you can immerse yourself. And so we do offer Zoom retreats, which means that you have to hold your own space, but we also offer them in person. And when we offer them in person, I'll talk about that so that
Yeah.
you get an idea of it. You arrive on the first night, and the first night we come together as a group and we set up the structure of the retreat so that we have our agreements that we make that are to make the space really sacred and safe. And then
Yep.
we have the structure of the format of how we're going to work together.
Mhm.
And so we go over all of that, and then there's training on how to do these retreats. Are very special because we're using a process of of meditation in communication. So this meditation in communication really promotes this ability to connect. It's like you're face to face with another human being, and sometimes you can feel disconnected to this other person that's right in front of you, but
Mhm.
i- because we put you in this process over and over again, eventually it wears you down. And you can't help it. You can't help but be connected. So, this is my website. So, if you're interested in finding out more about it, you can find out more about it here. But I'd like to go farther into the process of this retreat. So, the first night we're setting up the process, and then the
Yep.
next 3 days we spend immersed in a meditation. And the meditation is in this meditation, we're doing this dyad meditation where you're face to face with one other person in a communication that is formal. It's formal,
Mhm.
and you're speaking of yourself only. So it's not a conversation. It's each person is doing their own internal work, and there's no conversation about it. There's no discussion. Nobody tells you what you should think or how you should present the truth. Um, your 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 listening partner. You're a communicating partner half the time, and a listening partner half the time.
Okay.
So when you're the listening partner, you're to be there to just give your undivided attention
Yep.
and and welcome the other person. And and it's powerful to be listening at this deep level.
Yep.
And then when you are the communicating partner, what you're wanting to do is communicate so well that your listener could walk in your shoes. It
Mm.
is to You want to communicate so that they can see the world through your eyes. And so this process for me, and I see this over and over again, it makes you a better communicator. It makes you a better listener, and it makes you much more able. Like when I started this, I was good at communicating anything that wasn't about me. But the minute it got to be about me, it was like, oh, how do I communicate this? And
Yeah.
um, but the process, it's like it allows you to connect with the other and see what they need in order for them to get your thought. And that's powerful because it creates that connection. And the purpose is enlightenment, and there's the process includes it includes teaching on how to use this process specifically for enlightenment. And so it's very powerful, and it's also very successful. So after the 3 days of meditation, so you're not only doing this, you're also, so this is the main process that you're using, but you're also meditating when you're eating. You're meditating when you're walking. You're meditating when you're being silent. You're meditating when you're doing the dishes or when you're making a meal. You're meditating, so you're meant to immerse yourself in this process. And then on the last day, we want to take you out gently, but we also want to look at what are the gifts that you've received during these 3 days. And this process of looking at the gifts that you've received over the last 3 days allows you to say, oh, this is something I want to bring into my life. So it doesn't just become a memory of some great experience that you had on a weekend somewhere. This is something that you actually move into your life, which is a problem sometimes when people have these deep awakenings and then they get thrust back into their lives.
Yeah.
They don't know how to bridge the gap. So this day of integration allows people to bring forth the gifts that they've received into their daily life. And so
Nice.
the process is it's very powerful.
So, and this might be a question of some people, I'm not sure. Explain to our viewers what it means to be in meditation while you eat, be in meditation while you walk. Because most people think you sit down, you empty your mind, and you know. So, can you explain that a little bit? Like, walk us through that a little bit.
Well, there's different ways to there's different processes to get into meditation. I mean, when you decide that you're going to meditate, it's like if you sit down at the piano and you're practicing piano, you're still playing the piano, even though I'm not very good yet. So this is the same thing with meditation. Meditation is a muscle,
Yep.
and the more you do it, the better you become. This
Yes.
immersion of doing your best to set up your space so that you're not distracted by your daily concerns of paying bills and oh, I've got to visit Aunt Anne, or that you take those off your plate for these days, so that all you're doing is you're putting your attention on this process. So when you're eating, just eat.
Right.
When you're sleeping, just sleep. When you're working, just work. It's a single-minded focus.
Right.
And so when you do that, like normally when we're eating, we're thinking about all the other things that we have to do, the to-do list, and I've got to get this eating done so that I can get on to the next thing. So you're not really in the moment.
Not at all. Not at all.
And meditation for me is about being with what is.
Exactly.
Really, it's like really being with what is and accepting both the moment and how you are with it. Sometimes I'm not accepting the moment, and you can accept that you're not accepting the moment.
Exactly. So how would a person, do this kind of work? The world is a little bit chaotic right now. We've been through a very long period of disconnection, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, as we've gone through lockdowns, and we're still sort of dealing with the repercussions of the whole COVID experience. And it's not like one area. This is a global thing that has occurred, that is interrupted. And I've noticed a rise in odd kinds of violence and stuff that normally we wouldn't see. And so I'm just wondering, this type of work, what you're talking about here, can that be used to help us to deal with the trauma that we've been feeling, the fear that we've been feeling, and to actually begin to shift back into a more, or not shift back, but shift forward into a more peaceful place?
Well, I do find that when people become more connected with who they are, they become more compassionate towards themselves and more compassionate towards others as well.
Yeah.
It's like they own their dark side. They let their they it's you do it's like you have to look at both the dark and the light. And
Yeah.
people have trouble on both sides of that. They have trouble seeing how dark it is for them, and they also have trouble seeing how light they are. But being able to accept both sides allows you, sorry, it makes me teary eyed to think about it, but it allows people um, to really have self acceptance. And when they can accept themselves, they can see the pain that others have and have acceptance for this as well. And so um, this process is very powerful for that.
It is. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, just to make sure that people who are watching understand where this goes and how beneficial it can be, because I think that's what we're all, any of us who are teachers are helping people to sort of move through the difficulties that have been around us. I mean, we've all experienced it. And some of us are dealing with it okay, and some of us have been, almost thrown under the bus by it and having a great struggle trying to reconnect with life. And I've noticed that even in my center, my spiritual center, in that, getting people to come out in person has actually been a great challenge because, well, I don't know why, but I'm assuming it's like, I can just stay home. I know it's safe. I'm not going to get sick, blah, blah, blah. And I think we're moving into a new reality. So what does that look like? So what are some things we can do as we venture into this new landscape that we're all headed for?
Well, one of the things that's happened as a result of our pandemic is that people have gotten more comfortable doing things on Zoom. And so I do offer a weekly Zoom dyad night on Thursday nights. And this is free of charge. People can come, they can learn how to do dyads. And this is it's just a service that I offer for people. People can sign up for an enlightenment intensive, and we offer them both in person and over Zoom. The next Zoom intensive will be over Easter weekend.
Okay.
And the next in-person retreat will be towards the end of June, and that will be outside of Hamilton at the Five Oaks Retreat, a beautiful retreat center.
Fabulous place. Fabulous place.
And so that's one way. I also offer online yoga, which is my online yoga classes are live, and they're eight classes a week, and so people can sign up for those
Okay. And
and
what
come.
time are those on?
So they run 6 days a week at different times and using different. So I have two 6 a.m. classes. I have
Mhm.
two in the afternoon classes. I have one 7 p.m. class. I have a noon hour class, a 7 a.m. class, and an 8:30 a.m. class. So there's lots of range, and it happens over 6 days. Sunday is the only day that I don't have any classes, and
Oh,
that's just as a rest for me.
and that's all Eastern time zone.
Those are Eastern time zone,
Yeah.
but because it's online, these classes are online. You can join from anywhere, but you'd have to adjust the time for your own time zone.
Exactly. Well, that's really exciting, and the information's on your website.
It is. There's a page for yoga.
Yeah.
There's another page for my retreats. And if you follow the links to the retreats, it will send you to a landing page where you can sign up for the retreats.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it's interesting to look at the different type of work that's out there and the importance of doing it. And I was watching a video of a person who went through a massive healing of their body. Well, with yoga, it's everything, but went from being unable to walk without two canes and having gained a lot of weight because of an injury from being overseas at war, this veteran healed himself through yoga and lost the weight, restored his ability to walk, not only walk but run, and just created a whole thing. So yoga is a very powerful healing tool.
It totally is. It's a very power. I myself have healed a couple of things. I had a thyroid problem, which it's like my doctor said it was never going to heal, and I healed myself with yoga and diet in a year, and my blood work was normal. And he it's like he didn't believe he didn't believe it, because it wasn't something that he had kind of been aware of. But yeah, yoga is very healing, and I've also healed myself of blood sugar issues. So it is powerful indeed, and I've seen other people heal tremendous things.
Yeah.
So it's powerful in that way.
Well, it's so important to recognize the mind-body connection. The body doesn't happen by accident. It's like our thinking is really impacting our physical well-being and the stuff we tell ourselves. The criticism that runs around our head is like, oh man, we got to correct that a little bit.
Yeah, it's helpful. And yoga does help you with your mind. The thing is, the Enlightenment Intensive for me is an aspect of yoga. So when people think about yoga, they think about this physical posture aspect of yoga. But yoga has 8 limbs, and physical postures are limb number 3. That's it, limb number 3. Enlightenment is limb number 8. And so this retreat that I give, for me, this is a yoga retreat. Even though it's a meditation retreat, it's a yoga retreat, because we're actually practicing all of the 8 limbs of yoga on those retreats.
Okay.
And including the enlightenment piece. So it's powerful.
That's exciting.
Yes.
Exciting. Well, I'm sure some people are going to be checking out your website after this show. We're going to take a commercial break. You're watching The Joy Show with Barbara Schreiner-Trudell and Colleen Santini, and we will be right back. So don't go away, everybody. And we're back. So we've been talking about enlightenment. We're talking about meditation. We're talking about yoga. We're talking about a whole body wellness that happens when we clear our minds and begin to heal our bodies as well. So what do we do about the world we live in?
I don't know. I don't feel like I have a lot of agency over anything but myself. And I feel like if I heal myself and I treat others well, that I'm spreading love and truth. It's like if I tell the truth, I'm dropping a little piece of truth into the ocean that is what all of us have. And so if I can be more truthful, if I can be more kind, if I can be more compassionate with myself and with others, and practice nonviolence and truthfulness. Like some people think that they have to choose between nonviolence and truthfulness, and there's an art between doing both. And I think it's worthwhile practicing non-injurious truth.
I agree. I agree. I think, and that's why I do this show too, is that the minute we come to understand our own authenticity, the minute we choose to live from that, to have love and compassion for ourselves, we now have that energy to share around us because we can only give into life who we are. And if we're angry and mean and vengeful and resentful, then the energy that we're putting out is disrupting any possibility of peace. But in the moment that we begin to see ourselves in a new way and begin to live from that, we actually change it, not just for us, but we change it for every life that we touch. And of course, we know the ripple effect of that, that because everything's just energy and we're all connected. So I change, that changes the world. You change, that changes the world. Enough of us do it. Well, we're going to have a little party here.
The fermentation party. I think of fermentation. It's like you put. I'm making kombucha in my cupboard here, and
Okay.
it's like you have this mushroom called a SCOBY, and you
Yeah.
you put it in a big jar with some black tea and sugar and water, and then you let it sit, and it works, and it does its thing, and it
Yeah.
turns into kombucha. And I feel like we do that to each other. It's
Yes.
like, so do you want sweet kombucha or vinegary kombucha?
Please.
That's right. So what are you putting in?
And that's life, right? Like if I'm showing up as kindness and respect and honesty and integrity, right? Like that's a big piece. And honesty, I have to be honest with myself as well as
Absolutely.
telling the truth to others. And I really think we should tell the truth and do it quickly.
Yes. Don't hide it. Don't keep it. You
Mhm.
know, so in yoga, there's yamas and niyamas, and non-injury and truth are the first two niyamas, but the third one is non-theft. And what non-theft means is not hiding the truth, because
Okay.
truth belongs to everybody. So if
Yeah.
you're hiding the truth, you're actually stealing from people, which it's like, oh, what a concept, what an idea, what a thought. It's like,
Well, it goes back to our own authentic nature. There's so many of us who are wearing all these masks and hiding who we really are from the world for whatever reason. And really, that's the same thing. We're stealing from humanity the possibility of something better if we allowed ourselves to truly shine the light that is within us, that is ours to share.
all we
We
have is us.
That's it. That's all you got. Colleen, you're it.
All we have is the only thing we can give is who we are.
And there's so much self-loathing in the world, like so many people who are not happy with who they are. And that's the healing piece, right? I have to come to terms with me,
Yeah.
the life that I've walked and where I am. And I've had some colorful experiences. And the bonus of that is I'm very empathetic because, well, there's hardly anything you could tell me that I haven't already done. So why would I judge you? And I shouldn't judge me. So it's coming to terms with who we really are and celebrating it, going, you know what? I've made mistakes. Show me somebody who hasn't. And, live the life you have and bring that into the world because you got a little something, something that only you can do. Nobody
That's
else.
right. Everyone is completely unique.
Yeah. Isn't that exciting?
It is. It is. It is. Um, and that connection with each person. I when we do a dyad and you have this new person sitting in front of you,
Yeah.
when they ask you your koan question, so a koan would be, tell me who you are, tell
Mm.
me who you are, tell me who you are, tell me who you are. Each time somebody asks me that question, uh, uh, it's like who they are pulls something out of me that's completely different than
Yes.
someone else pulls out of me. And so that's so it's so delicious that each relationship is is completely, it's completely yummy.
It really is. I remember the first time I was asked that question. I was in ministerial training, actually. It was our minister who asked the question. And, a lot of people talked about, being a mom or being this or a female or whatever. And the only thing that came to mind for me was I am love expressing. And that was the answer that felt most honest in that moment. And it's something that has resonated with me always, that if I can show up and be as loving as possible regardless of the scenario. So I first have to be loving to me, and that's been my greater challenge. It's easy to love others. Sometimes, loving yourself can be that wall of, oh, but I made this mistake or I did that wrong. And as a parent, I know I made mistakes with my children over the years. And so initially I had regret about that. And so I went to them, each of them as adults, going, this happened, this happened, this happened, and here's what I felt about that. And I want to heal it. And so that's been my process, is when something is kind of like, I talk about it. I talk about it with whoever I feel that, I've harmed or I've withheld from or whatever. I want to talk to that person. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, I didn't even know anything about it. But the fact that we're all connected, it doesn't matter if they knew. There's an energy between us that is impacting our connection. If I have any little kitschy thing going on in there, right? So healing that is so important. And that has been my process, is talking to my kids every time I remember something or I have a regret. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to my kids, and whoever it is, it could be a friend, it could be, my husband, it could be whoever, but to own it and go, wow, here's what I'm feeling right now.
having
And
this talk of truth between you. I saw Rick Santos popped up, and he's a friend of mine in San
yeah.
Diego. So
Welcome, Rick. Glad you're here.
thanks for coming, Rick. Nice to have you here. Um, so yes, this talk and having these very real conversations with the people in your lives, owning what's true for you, and being willing and able to have those deep conversations. I've been
Yeah.
having beautiful deep conversations with my son, and I appreciate his point of view is completely different than mine,
Yeah.
and um, and his his wisdom is it has a completely different view on the world, and I'm so thankful and so grateful for his point of view about about the world. It's like he shows me something when I'm willing enough to listen.
Well, exactly. And how old is your son?
My son is 33.
Okay. Because, I find the same thing with my kids, and especially right now, my 17-year-old, who's really tapped into what's happening, with people who are transgender or non-binary, or like what's happening in the indigenous, in the Black communities, all these things. Like, she's so tapped in, and she's always bringing to my awareness sort of what's going on that is of importance at the moment. And that really helps me to stay on top of all of these changes, because things are changing rapidly. And I've talked to members of my congregation who, struggle with, the ideas that are now being presented. Well, I don't understand why I have to say they when I'm talking to this person. That's their pronoun. That's what they,
That's
and
what they want to be called. Yeah.
exactly, respect what a person wants. It's none of your business, right? Like, we sometimes get, I love Nancy's watching here today, and she talks about, I'm going to live in my lane. And if it has to do with you, that's not my lane. I can listen and I can observe and I can be with you with that, but it's not my lane, so it's not mine to do. And I love that, just that idea of, let me just take the focus off of everybody else and focus on myself.
Staying in your lane. Yeah, I love that. I love that point of view. It's really good.
It
Yeah.
is. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. So, what about you moving forward? How are you feeling about life, the world, all the things that are going on, and what are your intentions kind of moving forward for yourself and others?
Well, um, so I'm taking this wedding officiant course with the lovely Barbara Schreiner Trudell, and that's exciting for me because I am about connection.
Mhm.
I'm running a clearing course tomorrow, which I'm excited about, and I'm writing a book. And
Tell me about
so,
your book.
so um, this question that you asked me at the beginning of the call today,
Yeah.
what is the change that you'd like to see in the world, was asked to me by a woman who helps people write their books, and
Okay.
um, that question was fabulous because the book that I want to write, now I realize there's 3 books I want to write.
It's
Which one am I
growing.
going to write first? That's the question. So, but that's the change that I want to see. I want to see us being able to talk about enlightenment as a normal part of daily life in North America. I want it to become more normalized, and for that, people need to know what enlightenment brings. What help it can offer in your lifetime. It doesn't fix your life, but it might fix your insides, um, and that might spur you to fix your life, um, and it makes life richer and deeper. And yes,
Mm.
it opens your heart. So love always wins.
Love always wins. Love always wins. Yeah, exactly.
So thank you, Wayne. Um, so um, I want to promote this, and I see the avenue for me is connection. You know,
Mhm.
I had a life-changing experience with connection. It's I was as a So I grew up as a hippie, in the 60s and 70s, and I would hitchhike around. It was really not an issue. And I went to university at the University of Windsor, and Windsor was kind of a tough town. It's like directly across the water from Detroit, and at that time, Detroit was kind of a badass city. Excuse my language. Um, but
It's all
um, so Windsor was similar, and I was from the small town of Ottawa. So Ottawa was a city, of course, but it was a small city. I think it only had 120,000 people at the time, and I went to school, and I came home at Christmas time, and my bus dropped me off in the middle of the night. And in the middle of the night, there was, because we were a small town, there was no public transit at that time, and there was no cell phones at that time. And so I was looking at a 90-minute walk home. And it was cold. There wasn't any snow yet, but it was cold. And there was this beautiful drive along the river that I decided to follow, and a car came along, and I stuck my thumb out, and I said, I'm going to try and speed this up. Stuck my thumb out, and I got in the car. And when I got in the car, the driver pulled a gun on me, and he drove me around. He had my head down on the seat and a gun in my eye. And you know, my goal when I got in the car was to get home. But my goal when I had the gun on me was to stay alive. Different goal,
just, yeah.
different goal. And I don't know, the life energy just rose up in me. And I knew that what I needed to do was talk to this guy. I needed to talk to him and make him my friend, because then I had a chance of staying alive.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I talked to him. He drove me around for an hour, and my mouth would not stop talking. I kept asking him about himself. I kept telling him about me, and in the end, he couldn't do it. He couldn't rape me, and he couldn't kill me, and he drove me back to where he was going to let me off in the first place. And what I saw, like, I didn't understand it at the time. I was just kind of, you get really shocked.
Yes.
You
Yes.
get shocked, and I was thankful to be alive. But in retrospect, years later, I look at that, and it was the connection that I made with that man that saved my life. that connection made me, it's like it made him aware of me as a human being. It made, I wasn't an object. And he couldn't visit his violence on me. And um, that connection is important. It can save lives. It saved mine. It can save businesses. It can save relationships. It's just so powerful. And we forget, sometimes when we get isolated in our own thoughts, and in our own to-do lists, and our own agendas, we get isolated. And when we get isolated, we lose touch.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like connection is really the way through for people. And
Yeah, I agree.
being connected and feeling loved and feeling the ability to give love is so helpful for people. So
Mm.
that's what I want to promote. And that's what I think enlightenment promotes. And that's why I want more enlightenment in the world, because I don't know, I'm addicted to love. I don't know anybody who isn't.
Me too. I've even got it tattooed on my arm. Love is the answer. Well, and it's true that I think what's caused so much challenge right now over the last 3 years has been the disconnection. So I think you're absolutely right. Connecting is the way to take us into a new reality, because we're not going back. I know lots of people talk about, well, I just want to get back to normal. I just want to get back to normal.
The new
Um,
normal.
Normal has never existed. Like, what's normal? It's different for every person, so there is no such thing. Mediocrity there is. I think that's what's striving to be normal is really a mediocre thing. It's about fitting in rather than standing out. And I think more and more of us need to stand out as our authentic self and live in a place of real self-acceptance, real love. And we get there by really honoring who we are, and in that being able to honor everybody else. But the connection is the most important part. And what I love about your story is that that's what healing looks like. You change that person's life by saving your own. Like, who knows what happened to him after that? I mean, it's irrelevant. But the reality is, in that moment, he made a new decision, and you don't know the lasting effect of that decision.
It's true.
That
I
could
don't.
very well have been an enlightenment moment for him. I think sometimes when we touch someone else's life, we want to know in the long run, what impact it had or whatever. But the truth, we don't need to know that. We just need to meet each other where we are and do that with love. And when we do that, there's a change. There's a big change that happens that can only happen through love. That's the piece that excites and delights me, is that love and fear cannot coexist, right? The fear disappears, just like when you light a match in a dark room, darkness is gone. So they can't coexist. And so we have a choice about where we put our attention
We
and what we
do.
bring
We do have
forward.
that choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're putting forward all kinds of good love stuff here. Get everybody enlightened so that they can, begin to celebrate and be who they really are. And that's how we change the world. It's one person at a time. It's the little things that really truly matter.
Thank you.
Little things. Yeah.
I, I I love the message that you're putting out in the world. I love that you promote love. I love the wedding course, and I'm looking forward to being a wedding officiant. And I think that's exciting.
It is. I think the whole idea of sort of expanding the understanding of enlightenment and what it is and what it can do, I think that's probably the most important thing that can happen right now in our world. And, it's something that's pretty well known in the Asian countries, Southeast Asia or South Asia and Far East. But we need to anchor it here more. And I know there's dribs and drabs, but what do you think would take to begin to make it a more common conversation?
I think it's like drips of truth into the ocean. It's like I feel I feel like I want to make a novel. I want to make a novel. I want to make a business book, and I want to make a memoir. And
Mm.
I think the more conversations that talk about this, the more normal it's going to become in the universe. You know, I see that more leaders and more companies run their they run their businesses from an enlightened point of view, but it's not in corporate yet.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see it go into corporate. It's not in corporate, and I don't know if that's worldwide or not, but I'd
Mm.
like to see that change in North America, and I'd like to have corporate be um, caring about their people and coming from a place of love for the people that work for the company, for the earth, and and that uh, and that there's it's like a lot of people suffer um, a lot of trauma, like a lot of psychological trauma from working in corporate. I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see people have healthy jobs in corporate. And so that would be and the thing is it starts with grassroots. You know, you
Yeah.
speak about it on a grassroots level, and then it becomes something that kind of starts a fire that
Mm.
becomes bigger in the conversation. So I'll just write my 3 books and put my little drips of more consciousness about enlightenment, and hopefully some of it gets famous enough that it it's like I don't want to get famous just to be famous. I want to get famous so that this the word, it's like the fire spreads here.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
and so you know, learning how to write a book that actually will change lives, that people will be interested in reading, is um, that's that's something I'm working towards.
Excellent, excellent. And I think what you want to do with that, I think like anything, it's, as you're talking, there's just great fire and passion and purpose that comes from you. And I think that's what you write. I think that's the writing. That's the, putting you onto those pages then makes the work that you do that much more accessible, which then allows for that possibility to expand and grow in ways that, maybe wouldn't have happened any other way. So it's really exciting to see that unfolding. And I think writing books, very good idea. Very good idea. And that's the journey, right? How do we share the message wide enough and deep enough that people begin to see the benefit, and especially with corporations, because it's always the bottom line. But
Yes,
for me, it's so simple. If your staff are happy, if they're satisfied with who they are, if they're excited to do a great job, your bottom line must increase.
it it will, no
Of
question.
course it will. Of course it will.
If your people are engaged and actively involved in your goals,
Yeah.
because they get that you care about them, how
Yeah.
can that not be good?
There you go. That's the message. Hire Colleen for your corporate events, and your bottom line will go through the roof. So anybody watching that's, running a corporation, that's what you need to do. Get that girl in there to wake your people up. But that's the message, right? It's
That is
like
the message.
the
Yeah,
minute people wake up and find, it's my message too. Like there's just one you.
absolutely.
Be that, you'll be productive in the world. Like it happens organically, that each of us bringing our light. There's a song. Karen Drucker is just this remarkable new thought singer, and just does remarkable work, but she wrote a song called Gentle with Myself.
Oh, I love that. I just love the title already.
You know what? It is such a beautiful piece of music. And it talks about, caring for yourself like you're a newborn baby child. And I
Precious.
thought, oh my God, if all of us woke up each day with the desire to treat ourselves with kindness, with sweetness, with love, with appreciation. I mean, when you think about when you look at that newborn baby when it's first born, it's like, oh, it's just so yummy. And if we treated ourselves that way every day, imagine what our world would look like.
Mm-hmm. So you and I should do a duo where we work together to help corporate be more more accommodating so that they can grow their business.
I like that. I think we need to have a conversation
I
after
think
this.
so too. I think so too.
I think there's some work for us to do that could
I
take
think
this to
yeah,
the next level.
yeah.
We'll tag team it and see. I love that because that's it, right? We work. Collaboration is one of the big things.
Collaboration is awesome. Yes,
Yeah.
and we have different circles. So
Mhm.
um,
And Nancy was just saying, do a workshop together.
how come you can see that? I can't see that. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've got a whole
Oh, you've got a whole other
list.
yeah, you've got a whole other screen happening over here
I
probably.
do, I do. As a producer, I get to see all of the comments that come in, and then some of them, my producer Deja will put up on the screen, so that's when you can see them too. But
That's right. I can see them when she sees them. When she lets me.
when she shares it.
That's right.
But that's the thing, right? As each one of us puts our best foot forward, as we love ourselves enough to show up authentically without worrying about fitting in, but rather allowing ourselves to stand out, I think that's where real healing happens. That's where our world will change. And that's where we can begin to stem fear and violence and begin to impress upon life that love really is the answer, regardless of the question.
Love and connection.
Love and connection.
You're the love girl, I'm the connection girl. Not
That's
that it's different. Not that it's different.
it really isn't. It really isn't. So we're down to last 3 minutes. Final thought.
Um freedom
Mhm.
from your own mind comes from connection. It
Yeah.
comes from self-love, and it comes from being the author of your own life.
Yeah. Sweet. I like that. I love it. That's exactly right. That's perfect. That's perfect. And all I want to say to everybody who's watching, besides, share, like, and subscribe, beyond that, be here again next week. But just know that you were created unique and special, and that you are here today. You are alive at this point in time because you have a very special gift that only you can bring, that you are required to give into humanity today. And it needs you. It needs your authentic voice, your life, your beauty, your excellence, your gift, whatever your genius is, and we all have it. Find it and then share it with the world. And that's where the lasting change is going to happen.
Barbara, thank you for having me today.
I'm
This
so
was lovely, really lovely, and so easy to just chat with you for an hour. It's really, I wasn't sure, but it's easy peasy. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here. I love what you're doing. I love your work. And you really are a light in our world, and a world that right now is experiencing some trouble. So your light is of immense value. So thank you. I love you. And we're going to talk about doing some work together.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everybody. You are all rock stars. We love you lots. Have a beautiful day. Till next time.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.